The purpose of today's episode is simply to act as an eye-opener. In our online counseling agency, we help a lot of men break their pornography addiction. One common theme is that many of them are surprised by how devastated their wife is by the discovery of their porn use. It's like they really don't anticipate the impact. Most think she'll be mad, but I think it's more the extent of the hurt that surprises them. So I hope today's episode will educate husbands so that they can be better prepared to understand and respond to their wife's distress.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is designed to help busy couples like yourselves move away from conflict and unhappiness to build a marriage you'll love today and treasure for a lifetime. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Learn how you can help save marriages, prevent divorces, and keep families intact by going to oyf.support. Once again, that website is oyf.support. And now, here are your hosts, Caleb and Valinda Simone Gandel from Only You Forever.
Welcome to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. If you want to build a thriving, passionate marriage, we've got the research, the truth, and the answers you're looking for. We have an informative and hopefully enlightening episode for you this week. This is episode number 263, and today we're going to be talking about the impact of a husband's porn use on his wife.
Hey there, before we get started, if you missed last week's episode, we discussed how to handle family visits when your family is toxic or traumatic to visit. Go back and check that out. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming shows from us.
And if you're struggling with your marriage, we offer sound research-based advice, and most of all, we offer hope. All right, let's get into the topic of how a husband's porn use can impact his wife, or usually impacts his wife.
Okay.
So let's start on the more general end of things. Porn use continues to increase. Unfortunately, a 2018 article in the Journal of Sex Research indicated that half of men are exposed to pornography before the age of 13. Nearly all men use it occasionally for masturbation, and roughly 46% use pornography weekly. In contrast, only 16 to 31% of women report regularly using pornography. And so when people view pornography, they may not really realize it, but they're learning about sex. So the viewing of it impacts how a person thinks and also what they believe about the human sexual experience. And so because pornography is a very intense medium where you generally are seeing people with unrealistic and uncommon physical attributes, and you're also watching through videography or photoshopping of images that idealizes and intensifies the sexual experience or the appearance of everything related to that. The consequence of this is that you will start to feel the romantic and sexual aspects of your marriage are just inadequate. They can't match that. Mm-hmm. Just like your life is not like what happens in a Hollywood movie, right?
No, and I just remember something I heard in high school about this guy, and when he got married, his wife was going to have her lower rib removed so that she had a slimmer waist.
Wow. Yeah.
And I didn't even know what pornography was at the time.
Okay.
But like looking back now, I can see how he was influenced to get to that point. But like, as you were saying, it's unrealistic.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, sorry, I just kind of snowballed right in there. But
no, it shows you some of the extremes that people go to.
And so try to compete on a screen.
With something that is probably impossible to compete with.
Yeah.
It's definitely impossible to compete with, I should say.
Yeah.
So because you're getting a sex education, in a sense, not like a good education, but
right. You're still gaining knowledge.
Yeah. It means that your marriage relationship is going to deteriorate just because no normal marriage can live up to that level of performance, right? And so through no fault of the marriage itself or even your wife, there is that inevitable decrease in marital satisfaction. And we should be able to figure this out, but we don't. It's like when you go into a major fast food chain, you see that juicy burger with a perfect fluffy bun up on the order board and the lettuce and the sauce, and it's all kind of layered out in pristine form. We all know that the burger that we're going to get is not going to look anything like that, but we still buy the burger. Right? But it doesn't work that way in marriage in the sense of we still buy the burger, because I think the brain circuitry, the addictive components are far more powerful in human sexuality and in relationships than they are with how you relate to fast food. So,
okay, I'm missing the connection.
So we accept the burger that we get, even though we know it doesn't look like what's on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Right? But we don't accept the wife we have because she doesn't look like what's on the screen.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm saying is this is the impact of pornography. It makes you very dissatisfied with what you have.
Ah, okay.
So we can handle the difference with a hamburger, but not with sexuality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, not really, but I can see what you're saying.
Okay. Maybe we'll chalk that one up under terrible illustrations. But the idea, I guess what I wanted to start with here is just the idea that a little porn use doesn't hurt anybody. That's an unrealistic idea.
Okay, yes.
Another study took a nationally representative sample in the USA of over 20,000 married people, found that those who reported seeing an X-rated movie in the last year were 12% less likely to have a happy marriage, 25% more likely to be previously divorced, and 10% more likely to have had an extramarital affair.
Wow.
So I'm surprised those numbers aren't higher.
Yeah, but people talk like it's fine to watch an X-rated movie together. You know, it heightens your sex life or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's another.
But the research doesn't show that.
So hang on a sec though. It may increase the intensity of the next sexual experience with your wife or your spouse, right? But it's not going to be building you guys up as a couple or adding to or deepening your intimacy as a couple. So I don't think it's going to benefit your marriage, but it may give you a more intense sexual experience.
Okay.
And that's part of the addictive thing too. And often when we're working with guys that are coming out of addiction, it's like, okay, the intensity isn't going to be as high, but the satisfaction is going to be much, 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 much greater.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
It's like that with any addiction, like drugs. You can get a much more intense high than you can doing everything else, but your life satisfaction is in the pits.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So anyways, okay, there's that. Another interesting stat is that a survey of attorneys found that 56% of divorce cases involved heightened use of internet pornography by one partner. And this is a 2018 statistic. Yeah. So that's coming up quite a bit too, that number. So the act of secretly using pornography, of hiding it, of feeling guilty about it may make the other spouse feel inadequate, not knowing exactly what's going on even. And they may notice that the person using the porn is emotionally withdrawn. And that can lead to sexual dysfunction in the marriage. It can lead to deteriorated emotional intimacy. Because the energies of intimacy and connection are not pointed towards each other. They're pointed to other secret hidden things. And that's bound to manifest itself in dysfunction.
So even though you think you're hiding it,
it's still having an effect.
It's having an effect, yeah.
Even if you're the only person that knows about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I could back that up with plenty of stories from the counseling room too. That plays out in real life all the time. So let's look at the impact specifically on wives then. Negative effects of a husband's porn use on his wife. So first of all, as I mentioned in the intro, I think a lot of men expect that their wife will be angry when she discovers that he has been using porn.
Yeah.
They anticipate that, very angry. But like I said, I don't think most guys are aware of even thought of how traumatic it will be for her. So that's kind of the self-deception or the minimization, right? We think, she's just going to be really, really mad. And that's kind of as far as we get.
Okay.
Now,
so this kind of talks about when a wife discovers the use.
Yes.
I'm sure some wives come in knowing that it's happening, it's being used.
Yeah. So there's a range of behaviors. This is not a universal thing. Like I've actually had wives who have used porn somewhat themselves, have married their husband knowing he's struggling with it and don't like it, but are not as bothered about it. Like they're confident in it. They want it. They're more confident in themselves. They want it to end. Okay. Right. But they understand that this is a thing.
Right.
But there's no secrecy here. Yeah. So most of the impact that I'm talking about today is when we go from something secret to something becoming known.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that's how it goes in most cases that we see, certainly.
Okay.
So upon discovery then, women often experience symptoms of relational trauma, including fear or anxiety, like a lot of that. Outbursts of anger or rage, intrusive thoughts about the pornography, the trauma of the disclosure, feelings of self-blame or responsibility, feelings of panic or feeling out of control, like their world is kind of shattered here, right? Sadness or depression, feelings of detachment, feelings of worthlessness or being broken, preoccupation with their body image, difficulty falling or staying asleep, hyper-vigilance, like being constantly on the alert for signs that their husband is viewing pornography or otherwise some way unfaithful, and feelings of helplessness. So those are common symptoms. Now, you may be agreeing and thinking you can see how, and, as a husband thinking, yeah, I can see how she might be experiencing one or two of those symptoms. But actually, you should expect that she would experience nearly all of them. Definitely for a number of days, probably for weeks, sometimes even for months. So the discovery of virtual infidelity is traumatizing. And again, and I just had someone say this on a consultation call with me yesterday, it's not like I slept with anyone.
So what's her problem?
No, like he wasn't quite going there. It was more like he was astounded at her reaction.
Oh, okay.
And respectful of it. Although you might get some people that wonder if she's overreacting for sure. That's where I am. But yeah, I just see it in a lot of cases. This is not in this level of of emotional injury is not anticipated.
Right.
Or understood.
Yeah.
She may also feel disgusted with you and how she believes that you perceive her. She may think poorly of herself or begin to think poorly of herself. She will likely feel that the dreams you shared of your life together are completely shattered. It kind of breaks everything. And she will have a period of time where she believes that she will never be able to trust you again. Mm-hmm. So discovery of a porn addiction is a devastating, disorienting experience. She may also wonder why she was not enough for you, why you felt you had to go elsewhere for sexual pleasure. That may be feeling not thin enough, not sexy enough, not interesting enough, not loving enough. Or she may believe that she is enough of all those things and will feel an utter contempt that you would not see her as enough.
Okay. That's quite a range.
Yeah, there's a lot. And so this is really why we wanted to focus on the impact on wives in this episode. We want husbands to hear that these are normal reactions and responses. Your wife is not just overreacting or going crazy or trying to punish you. But the discovery of a hidden pornography addiction is usually a devastating, shattering experience that creates severe emotional distress. It takes time to heal from. Mm-hmm. And so we really just wanted to normalize a lot of what happens for wives and what husbands will see when their wives are going through this.
Yeah.
So once again, we created a bonus exercise for our much appreciated supporters. This one is something that we recommend where there are severe symptoms of betrayal trauma. It's an exercise for the betraying spouse. You'll write a letter to your wife. It's a fairly labor-intensive exercise. It involves 8 different sections where you will detail out how you are taking responsibility for your actions and the impact that this addiction has had on your wife. So it's a difficult, but it's a very useful exercise to go through. And you can get this by becoming a patron of the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. We'll take a short 60-second break here to tell you more about that.
What happens when the fairy tale marriage meets reality? Too often, high expectations lead to disappointment, communication breaks down, and the struggles of day-to-day life become overwhelming, leaving you feeling lost and without hope. Unfortunately, marriage does not come with an instruction manual. Marriage troubles are deeply personal and can take a toll on you, your spouse, and your family. Counseling can be expensive and divorce is very costly. It doesn't have to be this way. Caleb and Valinda understand your pain and frustration. Their mission is to help save as many marriages as possible, and to date, thousands of couples are helped through their weekly podcast. But the most important marriage they want to help save is yours. With a minimum of a $10 investment a month, you gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Learn more about saving marriages and how you can help at oyf.support. That's oyf.support.
You're listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People. Before the break, we were talking about the impact of porn use on wives. Of course, making you more aware of that may prompt an initial reaction or response to want to cover things up or to minimize or even lie about the extent of the addiction.
That's what I was thinking before the break.
You really want to bury it. But the bad news here is that most wives report that the lying and secrecy, which you're now considering increasing, maybe, is even more devastating than the pornography use itself. Mm-hmm. So most addicts go to great lengths to keep their addiction hidden. They're watching porn when they can't be discovered, locking doors, deleting internet history, hiding.
Don't give people ideas of what to do.
Sorry. How did you want me to continue the rest of my sentence, Valinda? I think they've already figured this part out.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So don't be hiding. Let's do it that way. Don't be hiding things with passwords or by other means.
Okay.
So when your wife finds out that you've been using porn and going to these lengths to cover it up, she's shocked. She's betrayed by the porn use. But on top of that, she's also floored by the fact that you have kept it secret and hidden from her for so long.
At all.
Yeah. And on top of that, most guys, when found out, are not fully honest about how often and how long they have used pornography for. They minimize, even deny, sometimes outright lie to start with. And then it puts her in the position where she's sleuthing. Mm-hmm. And then she discovers that you lied about the lying or lied about the secrecy.
Okay.
And the hiding, right? So in my clinical experience, while the porn use really rattles the foundation of her self-esteem and her physical confidence, the lying shatters trust. That's where it goes.
So that hurts the relationship more.
Lying and secrecy. Yep. And that's foundational for a close, intimate relationship.
The trust.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is why it is so absolutely imperative that if you do have a pornography addiction, when it comes time to disclose, honesty is so critical. And it would be easy with all those consequences that we listed before the break, the consequences that describe the impact of porn use on your wife. It'd be easy to think that, you know what, I'll just take this secret with me to my grave.
Mm-hmm.
But that rarely works out. And when you perpetuate the secrecy or you attempt to cover your addiction with lies, you end up shattering your wife even more.
Mm-hmm.
Early, honest, complete disclosure is almost always the best option.
And stopping.
Yes. I was assuming that.
Oh, okay.
I come across something the other day, and I hadn't had time to look into it yet, but it talks about how lying or secrets inside of a marriage impacts your ability to develop deeper attachment to your spouse. But that would be a really interesting thing to look at too. Yeah, because people do ask me the question, "Can I take this to my grave?" And because it's going to be so hard on her. And
assuming at this point that they've stopped the action.
Assuming they want to stop the porn use.
And just
let it kind of fade into the past. And I mean, there's a couple things. One is the concern I just mentioned. AA for years has said that you're as sick as your secrets. So their principle is no secrets, in addiction. And we've generally found the same thing. Addiction thrives in secrecy. So while it would be nice to spare your wife the devastation, more than nice, we don't make this decision for people because we don't bear the consequences of the disclosure. They do. But it's really hard to get to move towards the marriage you want and to break the back of this kind of an addiction without disclosure.
Okay. Do you know what my recommendation would be?
What?
Just don't start.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
Yeah. But I guess,
Note to all 18-year-old boys who are currently listening to a marriage podcast, maybe let's go for 13-year-old boys since that's the age of first exposure. Please don't. Okay.
Well, given Caleb that it's the cool thing in our 13-year-old daughter's class to listen to her parents' marriage podcast.
Okay, but that's weird.
That is weird. Anyhow.
That's unusual.
If any 13-year-olds are listening to this, just don't start porn use.
Exactly. But coming back to our topic at hand, the impact of the lies, and then the need to disclose. Unfortunately, disclosure is rarely done well, and that can heighten or intensify the impact of the addiction being disclosed. That comes back to if you trickle little bits of information out, or you disclose over time, or you deny but admit small bits, all that kind of stuff where you're not really just being honest and open, makes it worse.
For the wife.
Yeah, and for you too, for the husband.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for sure. And yet guys come to me quite baffled by their wife's reaction. I think because at some level they are committed to the marriage, and most porn addicts buy into the lie that it's really not a big deal. So they often don't even begin to consider this lying and secrecy part two and the impact that that's going to have on their spouse. So
who puts the lie out there that this is not a big deal?
Well, part of the any addictive process is minimizing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like when people step back and get sobriety and they look back at themselves, it doesn't matter now whether it was alcohol or marijuana or pornography, what it was. They're like, I cannot believe I was doing that to myself. But this is how I justified and minimized it while it was happening.
Okay. Okay.
So I do hope this has been some help to husbands to really pause to empathically consider the impact of porn use on your wife and the disclosure more so. And I hope it gives you compassion as well for her healing journey as you go through your own recovery from porn addiction as well. And as always, if we can be of any help to you, we do have counselors that are extensively experienced in working both with the person with the addiction, male or female, and their spouse, male or female, the betrayed spouse. Both of those are specialties that we cover. You can find out more about that on our website at onlyyouforever.com under the counseling menu.
Okay, what about if they're not married?
What about it?
Like, do you have counselors trained that can help them?
Oh, we work with lots of single people.
Before it ever becomes a marriage issue?
We work with lots of single and dating people too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's the time to kick it if you can, right?
Yes. Marriage won't stop it.
No, even though that's another lie that's perpetrated too. It'll stop when I get married.
Yeah.
Well, thank you to David, who became a patron between this recording and our previous one, and to all our supporters. We give a huge thank you. Next week,
we're talking about why you might be experiencing pain during sex. This time we're covering the topic for husbands. A few weeks ago, we covered the topic for wives.
Okay.
It's actually a pretty interesting episode.
Cool. Well, that is all for today's episode. You can get the full show notes at oyf.link/263. Find out how you can help. Go to oyf.support. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
The Marriage Podcast for Smart People is totally funded by listeners who support Caleb and Valinda in their mission to save marriages. If you would like to be part of this worthy cause, open your web browser to oyf.support. A minimum investment of $10 per month will help restore hope to married couples. Plus, as a patron, you'll gain access to exclusive bonus content and valuable information to help you succeed in your own marriage. Go to the website oyf.support now for more information. Thanks for listening to the Marriage Podcast for Smart People from Only You Forever.